Hi and welcome to the latest episode of Go Ballistic. We're turning our attention back to domestic football, the Scottish Premiership and beyond. The international break is over for Scotland. Still got a few players with Rangers still involved in international duty, but one of them who will be coming home with his stock greatly improved is Nicolas Raskin, man of the match on his first start for Belgium, and it's now started a little debate amongst Rangers and Celtic fans about Engels and Raskin, but you see much of the reaction to Raskin's performance?
Yeah, listen, he's had a good year so far in 2025. Started off captain Rangers to that Old Firm win at Ibrox. Then the next Old Firm win at Celtic Park. He scored the first. He set up the second for Mohamed Diamande. It was enough to get him called into the Belgian squad. I think he came off the bench for a debut away to Ukraine midweek. Started the game last night and was influential. I think he scored 3 in the last 20 minutes to overturn that first leg deficit. Lukaku scored something like his 324th or 325th international goals. But it was Raskin who got cheered off at the end. And all it can do is enhance his confidence and his belief. And what a change in a lad since he changed his diet at Murray Park. I'll maybe need to try it myself.
Yeah, it's been a sort of strange rise and fall, because when he arrived at Rangers he'd sort of fallen out with Ronnie Deila and it took a while to get up and running. He very much looked like a forgotten man at Ibrox for a time, and between now and the end of the season, what do you think his targets will be? You know, Rangers can't get their hands in any silverware, but what will he be looking to do?
If you're a young continental international at Celtic or Rangers, your ambition is to go to a bigger league. He has done everything he could to enhance his own reputation, his own standing in the game. Have played well for Rangers. Last night will have put him into a different stratosphere, I think, Ryan. People around the continent will look at him. It's good news for him. It's potentially good news for Rangers. They want to get into this player trading model that the current board keep discussing. If you're looking for young, up-and-coming players to sell, then a guy who bosses the midfield for Belgium is, that's one you want to get.
Yeah, and this isn't us flogging players as soon as they start playing well, but
not unless we 10%.
That's where we are in Scottish football, especially Scottish Premiership.
Listen, we were saying the same. If it was Arnie Engels, Celtic bought Arnie Engels for £11 million, a record fee, but part of that was in the knowledge of signing a 21-year-old up-and-coming Belgium from the Bundesliga, who they hope to sell for something high in advance of £11 million in years to come, and they possibly will.
Now, someone at the other end of his career, although he might have a thing or two to say about that, but Kasper Schmeichel, some disappointing injury news for Brendan Rodgers this morning.
Yeah, it's a bit of a sweat. I watched the Portugal-Denmark game last night, Ryan, mainly to see who would end up in Scotland's World Cup qualifying group. Kasper Schmeichel, great penalty save from a dreadful Cristiano Ronaldo penalty at the start of the game, but later in the game, hurt his shoulder. He then made a save right at the end of extra time, and the yell he let out, just displayed how bad an injury it was. I believe the Danes are saying no broken bones, but he's now going for an MRI scan to see if there's any tissue damage, any ligament damage in there. And it'll be a worry for Brendan Rodgers and Celtic because he's been outstanding this season. He's signed a contract extension for next season. And Celtic fans haven't really seen much of Ljami Sinisalo. So, big game against Hearts on Saturday could be an opportunity for the young fan.
And speaking of opportunities for Celtic players, Adam Idah on the score sheet for Republic of Ireland, and he had a few words or a gesture for some fans, and he also revealed a sort of behind-the-scenes chat with his manager. Being disappointed.
Yeah, and listen, he left some of his critics as silent as the BBC Scotland commentary. Good goal, good finish, probably what he needed. He hasn't quite convinced the new Irish management team that he's ready for a start. I think Troy Parrott and Evan Ferguson started ahead of him last night, but he came on, he got his goal, he did his little shush gesture to his critics, and a bit like Raskin, it will do him the world of good. This is the thing, international players, if they go away and do well, Alistair Johnson, he got one over Cameron Carter-Vickers at the CONCACAF Nations League, so he'll come back in good spirits. Adam Idah will come back in really good spirits for Celtic.
We'll have Kris Boyd talking about the Scotland reaction in a few minutes' time, but kind of looking elsewhere in the Premiership then as well. The race for third's getting more and more interesting. Hibs have all the momentum, but looking at the fixtures this weekend, there might be the chance St Johnstone fighting for survival that Dundee United or Aberdeen could put a bit of pressure on David Gray's Hibbies.
Well, I disagree with you. I think Hibs will put St Johnstone away at the weekend. St Johnstone have a terrible record against teams in the top six this season. I would fully expect Hibs, who should have won it, Kilmarnock last time out. Fraser Murray got a stoppage time, equalised. Hibs should have put the game to bed before that. I would think Hibs would win, and that then puts the pressure partly on Aberdeen, home to Motherwell, tougher game for me, and then Dundee United going to Dingwall on Sunday afternoon in the live tele game. I think it's all there for Hibs.
Yep, I mean Dundee United, if the results go the way of Hibs and Aberdeen, it's then we'll got more to catch up on, and Dingwall's never an easy place to go. And in the Championship, we've got a blockbuster on our hands, don't we?
Yes, I'm going down to God's country, Somerset Park, on Saturday. Neil Lennon will be unveiled as Dunfermline Athletics' new manager tomorrow at a press conference at East End Park. And his first game, away to his old Celtic captain, Scott Brown. It's going to be a fantastic game down there. Ayr need a point.
This is
1 point out of 9
game for both, isn't it?
This is a difficult time for Scott Brown, as tough a time as he's known in his spell at Ayr. Neil Lennon will be G'ing up the Dunfermline team. I saw Dunfermline lose the Fife Derby a couple of Fridays ago at Raith. They were abysmal. So he will put a rocket up them this week. Good game.
Now, talking about God's country, my local team Darvel were involved in perhaps one of the most bizarre refereeing errors I've ever heard or read up in my life. So you're going to hear from a bit of Michael Oliver, the Darvel manager.
I think up until the referees ruin the game, and we've ultimately been cheated. Chris, I can't stand here and say anything else.
But basically the incident was Kyle Lafferty subbed on for Johnston Borough as the 6th substitute in the match. He goes on, plays a part in Darvel conceding a penalty. The referee then allows Johnston Borough to sub Kyle Lafferty back off, but the penalty still stands. Johnston Borough score the penalty and go on to win the game. Now, we probably don't have any precedent of what to go here, but Darvel have said they're exploring all options and putting out a statement to say that they've had word back from the West of Scotland Football League. It's a world away from their Aberdeen Scottish Cup shock a few years ago, but now fighting for relegation. I mean...
Well, Darvel have gone from soldiers of love to substitutes of hate down there. I'm not going to say anything about Ayrshire schooling. I'm a former pupil of Girvan Academy, but surely people, even in Darvel, can count to 6. And this game needs to be replayed. Robert Grieve, our chief football writer, and Bill Leckie had a fantastic interview with the SFA's head of refereeing, Willie Collum, last week. Willie Collum has been open, honest, transparent. He's a breath of fresh air at Hampden this season. Willie Collum needs to bring the referee in, admit to a dreadful error. This game needs to be replayed. It's as simple as that. Yeah,
so going back on to, just before we get to Boydie's big reaction to the Scotland game, Roger, your quick analysis of the performance. Everybody's straight away jumping on the team selection. We probably all expected the back four. We maybe didn't expect perhaps Ken McLean to keep his spot and Ryan Christie to play, but it's always going to be a tough one to Steve Clarke, and you're never going to please everybody.
He's loyal, probably quite rightly, he's loyal to the guys, Ryan, who have done him well in the past. This is the structure that's got him to 2 Euros in the past. These guys, Grant Hanley at the centre of defence, Ryan Christie up in an advanced, wider role. Quite simply, they just didn't perform yesterday. They got a good result in Piraeus on Thursday night. They didn't perform yesterday. 2 friendlies in the summer. For me, I'm not sure we needed to take them. There'll be a lot of withdrawals. I'm not sure what we can learn from those 2 games. But when we get together again for the World Cup qualifiers and we start away to Denmark, the top seeds, tough game at the start of September, I genuinely don't think you'll see many changes in Steve Clarke's squad. He's already intimated he'll go at the end of this World Cup campaign. I don't think he's going to refresh things for the next manager. They'll all still be there. They'll all still be playing in the same positions. And he'll just ask, if that's his plan A, there's no plan B, he'll just try and do plan A better.
Yep, I mean, we've heard that plenty of times over the years from a variety of coaches. I just wonder if we were so happy with the result on Thursday, but I wonder if we maybe just kind of got away with one on reflection. Players not playing regularly at clubs and things like that.
International football, the Scotland team, it's always black and white. There's no sort of grey areas. I think if we look back, we're honest about Thursday night, we did get away with one. Probably not a penalty.
No, I didn't think so either.
The foul when Scott McTominay scores, but we'll take it. Greece battered us in the second half, but we defended resiliently and we escaped Piraeus with a really good win. We always felt the tie was still in the balance. I don't think any of us felt Greece would come and win 3-0.
No. Ben Doak, a big miss just lastly, we'll have him back for the World Cup qualifiers, and hopefully he gets a little run out in the international break in the summer too.
Absolutely.
He's a big way to how Scotland might play.
There are green shoots for the future. We've seen James Wilson coming on and breaking the records. Max Johnson's got a first cap. We know what Ben Doak can bring. By the time the World Cup qualifiers come, Lennon Miller might be playing in Serie A. He might be playing in Belgium, in England. He might be playing for one of the old firm. So he could maybe be pushing hard for the team. And Craig Gordon will only be about 52.
Only. Now, lovely big tribute to Dennis Law at Hampden as well. Now, I think you're just not quite old enough to remember seeing too much of Dennis Law, but you would have remembered Davie Cooper, and it was 30 years since his sad and tragic passing. What were your memories of him, a Scottish football legend? There's no other words to describe.
Yeah, and I was reading some stuff at the weekend from Ali McCoy's too, saying Davie Cooper didn't have a right foot, he couldn't tackle, he couldn't head the ball. It wasn't that quick, but of 355 Rangers goals, I think McCoy said Cooper set up about half of them. He was a fantastic player. I don't know whether Graham Souness will ever admit to letting him leave Rangers too soon to chase more first-team football at Motherwell, but his short spell at Motherwell included a Scottish Cup win, and they named a stand after him. He was superb at Clydebank. He was superb for Scotland. The night Jock Stein tragically passed away, he scored that crucial penalty at Ninian Park to send Scotland to the '86 World Cup in Mexico. A wonderful player taken way too soon.
So, on that note, we spoke earlier about Willie Collum's interview with our guys Bill Leckie and Robert Grieve. You're going to get a little excerpt of that now, and then you'll hear from Kris Boyd.
You said kind of refereeing saved you in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think so.
That jumps out, you know.
Yep. You know, I grew up at a time as well, there were a lot of gangs, there were a lot of drugs, there were a lot of drink, you know, and there was a lot of distractions in life that would have taken you in different directions. For example, I remember meeting recently Robert Snodgrass, you know, and Robert grew up maybe...
He's a great example.
Robert grew up, you know, maybe about half a mile from where I was. I was in Robert's brother's class at school, and Robert was saying to me, remember, we didn't have shoes and we didn't have this, you know, but it's all right to say that. I don't ever like for people to think, oh, you've come for this. I don't like that. What I would prefer to say is that, you know, it did save me for that culture, the drugs and the drink and the gangs, but also people like myself, people like Robert, you had to dedicate yourself, you had to show a high level of commitment. Sometimes that wasn't easy to show either in front of your pals, you know, that instead of going out on a Friday night, I was going to go running, or I was going to try and prepare for a game the next day, and that was probably difficult for a lot of people to understand.
Well, we can now head for Ayrshire to a man who starred for Scotland. Sorry, Ayrshire, a man who starred for Steve Clarke's Kilmarnock teams as well, Boydie. For those who have been watching in BBC Scotland for the last few days, don't panic when you can hear Boydie and I all the way through, and don't worry if you hear my questions before you hear his answers. That's normal, isn't it, Boydie?
Oh, it sure is. I'm not getting involved in tit for tat with the BBC. I might need them further down the line, Roger.
Well, Steve Clarke need him further down the line, because he's already said he's 75% sure he'll go after the World Cup qualifying campaign. And when you see the final makeup of the group, how long is this campaign going to last?
I mean, when you go back to Thursday night, there's no doubt the first half of Thursday was very good. There's no getting away from it. Probably should have been out of sight, Roger. But second half, Greece tweaked a few things and caused us a lot of problems. You know, you kind of felt as if that you'd have learnt from that and been able to put on a better show last night at Hampden, but team just never get going at all. Greece had made a few changes. They looked more, they looked more energy in their team. And left out some players that you didn't think was going to leave out as well. When you look at, you flip it to Scotland, I say Greece I thought done really well. They've shown already that they're potentially a country that's on the up again. I mean, they've always had some decent players kicking around. When you start to look, go back through their squad. Over the years, they've always had one or two where you would think, yeah, he's a good player. But put a team together has probably been difficult for them. But you look, the last period of time, there's a lot of youngsters coming through there. There's a few experienced ones who are obviously helping the young ones, but mean, when you look at the way Greece, and you probably watched it, Roger, if you go back to it, they dismantled England at Wembley as well.
Yeah. And you mentioned the changes that the Greeks made from Thursday to Sunday. Steve Clarke said afterwards he should potentially have made more changes, but when the team was announced at 3:45 yesterday, there weren't many complaints about the team. And you look at the bench, it probably would have stood to take criticism had he made more changes.
Yeah, well, the thing is, who else would you have changed?
Yeah.
I look at, people will say Lewis Ferguson, and I done my column on him at the weekend, and I thought he was excellent on Thursday night. Obviously, in an attacking sense in the first half, but doing a shift for the team in the second half. Roger, he's not played 2 consecutive games for Bologna since coming back from his ACL injury. Yeah. So he was never, ever going to play 2 games in 4 days. I mean, it was impossible. And a lot of the Tartan Army would have been excited with the prospect of Ryan Christie coming back into the team as well, considering what he's done in a Scotland jersey. So, I don't think that there would have been many people, and I think the Tartan Army have been spoiled the last few years as well. And there's an expectation there now with Scotland. This is the first time we've been at this level, albeit because it's Greece and it looks as if you've been relegated to the League B of the Nations League. But you've got to say Greece are probably where we were a couple of years ago, up and coming, causing upsets. And, we're just going to have to take a punishment. We probably, I think we said it at the time, Roger, we are probably in a bracket where we're going to jump between these 2 pots. We might, if we get a decent squad together again, in the near future, we could probably come out of pot B and go into A. Take, you look at the games, probably take some heavy beatings along the way, and pot A, then go back to B. That's where we're at right now, because I don't think we're dining at the top table with the big ones. And Roger, another thing.
Are we still up and coming though? Are we still up and coming? Because he's talking about Greece. If we've got everybody, if we've got Ben Doak and James Willison and Lennon, Miller and Max Johnson, is that enough for us to consider ourselves still up and coming? Well,
we don't know. We don't know because these Ben Doak, yes, but the rest have not been tested at international level yet. So there's optimism. There's a lot to be optimistic about. When you look at some of the performances, as you speak about, the other kids have put in domestically, and with the clubs, but international football is totally different. There is no getting away from it. There is probably a few coming to the end of their international career, or the latter stages of it, shall we say. But I still think there's enough in this group to qualify for the World Cup. I do, because Roger, you can't go from. You look at the performance for 45 minutes, and I know it was only 45 minutes. In an attacking sense on Thursday night, very good, very good. Considering Greece hardly lose a goal at home, never mind, lose a game. So when you look at that 45 minutes, then you flip it the other way. I thought we defended really, really well. I can't really remember the Greeks having the one at the back post. Tierney Robertson gets back in and does really well. But last night there is no doubt. Last night was a major wake up call again, and it just felt as if.
Steve Clarke's team's better set up for going to Athens, going to Piraeus on Thursday night and defending, get a goal and hold on to the goal. Are they better set up for that than they are to play in the front foot for a home game at Hampden? Because in the last couple of years, the Hampden results and performances have been poor.
Yeah, but Steve Clarke won't be influenced with the Tartan Army. He's never been someone who's going to listen to a crowd and say, I'm going to play on the front foot. Yes, you might be at home, but his setup would have been the exact same last night as what it was going to Athens. And as I said, caused Greece a lot of problems on Thursday night. And Greece probably took heart from the fact that they're only 1-0 down in the first half. Because, as I said, Scotland played really, really well on Thursday night for 45 minutes. Then it changed, and for whatever reason, struggled to deal with it. I think Steve's already touched on it himself. He could have freshened things up. But we're sitting here this morning, less than 24 hours after the game yesterday, and you're saying, who else could you have brought in? Yeah. I mean, really? What do you do? You look at everybody. Everybody's quite quick to jump on and talk about the lineup whenever you lose a game of football. But nobody comes up with, well, I'd have played this one, I'd have played that one, I'd have done this, or I'd have done that. Because there is nobody. I mean, maybe McKenna, maybe.
What do you do we don't have many friendlies nowadays because of the Nations League, because of all the qualifiers. Maybe not a bad thing when you see how we performed against Finland and Northern Ireland last year.
Yeah.
But in terms of these 2 games in June, there's bound to be withdrawals. There always are. Club managers will put pressure on players. There's a chance Ryan Christie will need groin surgery in the summer. Does Steve Clarke try and give more caps to the Dokes, to the Wilsons, to the Johnsons? Does he give a debut to Lennon Miller? Does he try one of these young goalies, a Robbie McCrory, a Ross Doohan, a Kieran Slicker? Does he try and be a bit more experimental? You know, is there scope for guys we've seen briefly in the past, Dominic Hyam, Liam Lindsay, guys like that, to come back in and make a pitch to be involved in the qualifiers come the autumn?
Listen, I hear what you're saying, Roger, and everybody will be saying the same, you know, that we need to find the next. But Steve Clarke's not going to be there to find the next ones as such going forward. I think he's already reiterated that he will probably leave after the World Cup qualifying campaign as well. So I don't think Steve Clarke's going to take the chance on, I'll maybe bring him in and give him a game because that'll do the next manager the world a good. Steve Clarke wants to go to the World Cup, as does everybody else. I mean, the next 2 games, Iceland at home and Liechtenstein away, you've got to look at it now and say you need to build for the upcoming campaign. You need to get rid of that performance on Sunday night.
And the opener is away to Denmark, the top seeds. We already know that September the 5th or 6th, I think it is. Boydie, Denmark lost in extra time to Portugal last night. Will take on Mika Biereth, Rasmus Højlund, Christian Eriksen, Kasper Schmeichel, of course.
Yeah.
That's a big... When you see them, what they can do, and you see the Greeks, what they can do, in a 4-team group, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be tough.
Roger, they always are. I mean, let's not be kidding. And this is where, you know, I think a lot of the Tartan Army have got ahead of themselves in recent times. You know, they were starved of success for a number of years, and then you've been to back-to-back Euros, albeit it didn't happen for the World Cup, but you've been to back-to-back Euros, and it's just an expectation now. Listen, every international team is getting better. There is no doubt about that. And you know, we've seen it even since I was playing international football. Teams have improved so much, and you go back 10 years before I was playing, and teams have improved so much. You know, from then to when I was playing. So I mean, I think that that they're always going to get better. You know, there's going to be, because of the size of country we're in. I think that we are always going to have maybe 3-4 campaigns, a 3-4 year where. We feel as if we can do something. Maybe a little bit longer, maybe 5 or 6, where you feel as if, okay, we can qualify for tournaments and we've got the nucleus of a really good squad there. But you've got to keep on going. I mean, Greece have been absolutely nowhere for a number of years. Now, all of a sudden, everybody's talking about them being this, outstanding team. So it'll change. Denmark as well, from what they have done over a period of time now has been incredible. I think, and I'm not usually one for speaking about it in terms of the size of our nation, because I think Croatia just throws that, that out the window, that topic out the window, because, for what they do, and it's a conveyor belt. So whatever they're doing, it's smaller countries need to try and replicate that because the numbers there. But, I think for us, we've been in a good place. I don't think anybody seen that coming last night, including Steve Clarke. I really don't. I don't think the team's seen it coming. But you're just going to have to dust yourself down again and go. I spoke about it in my column on Saturday. This team, the individuals in this team have dealt with setbacks in their career. A lot worse than losing a game of football to Greece. A lot worse than being, relegated from, for me, the top tier of international football. Where does Scotland belong in that? Probably no. Probably not. But they worked their way there. They've done really well for a period of time. They've got the rewards for that. They might just be back where, in and around countries where we belong. That's not to say that we can't cause an upset along the way. But, we probably, as I said, we're going to be that yo-yo team where you might have a year in the nation, League B, then you jump to A, you're back to B. That's just the way it's going to be. But listen, we can get really high and all excited when you're winning games of football, qualifying for tournaments and qualifying for the top pot in the Nations League. And ultimately, you're going to be down when you get relegated. That's where we're at right now. But I've said it and I'll say it again, Roger. This team will pick itself up and go again. There's too many players now with too much to play for in their international career. In terms of the caps they're on, in terms of the goals they're on, in terms of getting back to it, they've had success. of getting to the Euros. The next challenge would be to kick on and maybe do something in the Euros. Can you get to a World Cup? I mean, we're sitting criticising a team now that has been to back-to-back Euros. Roger, we've never been to a World Cup. We've not been to a World Cup since 1998.
Yeah.
You know, it's a long time ago. And as I said, for me, you look at Steve Clarke, he's going to overtake Craig Brown as the most, having managed Scotland the most times. You know, I think we always, when it gets to this stage where everybody's saying, Steve's already maybe hinting that he's going to walk away at the end of the campaign, and everybody's saying, well, just go now, can he type thing. Again, we keep speaking about players. Would I played this one? Who would you have played? Because it's easy to say, I wouldn't have started this one. But it's the exact same as a manager. If there's a better candidate out there, tell me who it is.
The eternal, he had to deal, again, wrestle with the eternal dilemma of Andy Robertson and Kieran Tierney. He went with a back four. The captain, Robertson, started both games. When Tierney came on, he came on sort of in front of him in both games. He finished up at left back last night. How did you feel that worked this time? Or did it?
Well, obviously, I mean, for the first half in Greece, it worked really well, doesn't it? I mean, with Andy Robertson at left back. You look at. I'm not making excuses, but when you go from, the majority of players have played last weekend and then it's Thursday, Sunday, 2 games inside the week. I know they're used to it and everything, but it's a quick turnaround rather than maybe the Friday or the Friday and the Monday or the Saturday and the Tuesday playing. It is a quick turnaround, and there is no doubt that we've struggled. I think that to ask players, and especially in the back line, when you look at Raskin, I don't think he let Scotland down, and I'm picking him because of what I'm about to say. Hanley, the exact same. It's very difficult to get 90 minutes out of them inside, 3-4 days. Considering they've not been playing a lot of football. But again, you can flip it and say, well, who else are you going to play? And everybody goes on about, the formations, and Scotland had, 3 clean sheets out of the last 4, was it? Something like that anyway. Definitely 3 victories out of the last 4 and a draw with Portugal coming into that game last night. So, and it was a back 4. Kieran Tierney's fit, and he's came back in to the squad this time, but this team has been doing really well. It has been doing well. So I don't think any manager's just going to say, right, we've got someone back, let's get him back in. Because, I mean, Kieran, yes, he's been coming off the bench in that with Arsenal, but he's not really had a lot of minutes there either. So it would have been another one where, potentially, could have done well the first game, but then ran out of steam the second. But listen, I mean, I think for me, and Steve Clarke's done it in the past, he will find a way to get Kieran Tierney and Andy Robertson in the team. It's 2 of your better players. You will need to do that. But by doing that, you're going to have to change to a back 3, because I don't think, with the players we've got in the attack, I mean, what do you start to do? You put Kieran Tierney to the left, ahead of Andy Robertson, then all of a sudden your people like McGann, who has to miss out because Kieran Tierney's playing there. It doesn't work like that. So as I said, I think Steve Clarke will find a way to get Kieran Tierney back in. It'll probably mean there's going back to a back 3. But then you're looking at it saying, I mean, I don't think Tony Ralston is a wing back. I think he's a decent defender in a back 4. But if you've got someone on the right-hand side, and I know Max Johnson did it, but, if you think of a Patterson, you think of a Hickey, that totally changes, the way that Scotland play as well on the front foot in the wide areas. So, I mean, Steve Clarke, I'm sure, would have loved to everybody fit, but it's not happening right now. But I think the outcry from everybody, or the majority of people inside the last 24 hours, the manager needs to go, and just remember where you've came from. I mean, the booing off the pitch. This is a team that has given the Tartan Army hope again.
Yeah.
When you think of where they were a few years ago, and then they're getting booed off the pitch, they'd won bad 90 minutes. Yes, there might have been a few in there. The Euros might have been disappointing in that, but I mean, everybody was cheering them in Athens on Thursday night, and they thought it was a foregone conclusion turning up to Hampden last night. It might just be a little reset to realise we're not as good as what everybody thinks we are, and we're definitely not as bad as everybody thinks we are after that defeat to Greece. But it's a reset for the group and go again. But as I said on my column on Saturday, these players have, the majority of them have had to deal with setbacks at the start of their career, during their career. The manager's the exact same as well. They'll come back from this, trust me.
Boy, I hope so. Thank you very much. As ever, we'll read the column again in the Scottish Sun this Saturday. We'll be back in Go Ballistic next Monday. Take care.
Yes. Thank you.